Hey guys, Scott from FrightProps here, and today we are going to take a look at our PIR motion sensor trigger. This is one of our most popular triggers. PIR stands for passive infrared, and that means that this sensor will actually work without light. It doesn't look at motion as you might think of it as like the motion of a hand crossing over the sensor. It's actually looking at changes in the infrared radiation given off by any object that creates heat, which is basically every object. So these have been a staple for a long time in the haunt industry. They're one of the go-to sensors for pretty much any prop. Allows you to attach it to a controller and have it activate without anybody being around except for the person who is setting off the prop, the customer or the patron, which is really cool. So we have our basic pneumatic setup again for today with a double acting cylinder, 4-way 5-port solenoid valve, and a PicoBoo ONE. PicoBoo ONE is powering the valve, which will allow air into the ports of the cylinder. So I can put in a little program here, save that, and anytime we activate the controller, it's going to play back our program. So like with most of our triggers, the wiring is pretty simple. The motion sensor itself comes pre-wired, all hooked up just like you see it here, with a 15-foot cord and 4 wires at the end: red, green, black, and white. So to wire it up to a PicoBoo, you'll actually see we have a trigger input here, negative, and the colors are actually on the PicoBoo, which is pretty cool. So we have negative, which is black and white, positive, which is red, and in, which is green. So we're just going to go ahead and match the colors up to the label and plug her in. I like to save the red for last because that's actually where the power is going to come from to power the motion sensor. And one of the things that you'll need to know is that these motion sensors take a little while to warm up, and while they're warming up, they're constantly triggering. So on some controllers, that'll actually cause your controller to trigger until the motion sensor is completely warmed up. So as soon as I connect this red wire to the powered input of the trigger input, it's going to activate the motion sensor, and we'll probably get some triggering for some time until the sensor has calibrated and warmed up fully. So let's do that now. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this or not, but the red light has come on indicating that the sensor is active. And as it warms up here, like I said, it's going to continue to trigger the control, and this can take up to a couple minutes. So we'll just let it warm up and come back when it's ready to go. Okay, you can see now that the light has gone off, which means that the trigger is not currently triggering. So it's warmed up, it's ready to go, and it will be set off when it senses changes in infrared radiation, such as when I pass my hand over the unit. And that'll go ahead and activate our controller, which will trigger our pneumatics. You can see that the triggering can be somewhat long, so you may need to add a post delay into your controller. And with PicoBoos, that's easy to do. You can just hit record a sequence, and just let it record for a few seconds before you hit the record button. And that'll actually record some silent space essentially at the end of the recording, so that when we set that new program off, we can make sure that the motion sensor stops triggering before the next sequence would begin. One other thing to note is that PIR motion sensors have a pretty wide field of view. So you can see I can actually set it off by putting my hand on the side of the unit, which might not be what you want if you're using this in a haunt and you only want to trigger it when people walk in a certain part of the hallway. You might not want it going off too soon when it sees people kind of coming around the corner or down the hall. So one simple thing a lot of people do is just use a board with a hole cut in it. A lot of people mount these behind a wall and put a little hole in there just to kind of limit the field of view, so that this will only go off when somebody walks in front of the now restricted view. Our PIRs also include a set of mounting hardware. It's got a little bracket here and a ball and socket mount so that you can position your PIR on a wall facing whichever direction works best for you. It comes with a couple of screws and everything to mount it, which should be everything you need to set up your prop to be activated by a motion sensor. So the PIR is a great choice for use in a haunted attraction. It allows you to have a prop or a pneumatic activate without you being there to set it off yourself. It just senses people as they walk by. It also will work well in the dark, which is really good, and it is not affected by fog, which is also excellent. You can be running fog in the same area. You don't have to have any lights on, so it's a really good choice. They're not 100% accurate, so that is a little bit of a downfall. You might get some false triggerings, but if you limit your field of view, work with your program, you should be able to limit those, making this probably one of the best choices for most scenarios in a haunted house. So that's a quick overview of our PIR motion sensor. Hopefully you found it helpful, and we will be doing a couple more trigger videos shortly. Thanks!